hold back. It wasn't a full-on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to remind everyone that tonight's meeting is held in person and online. Members of the public can join us and attend the meeting on burnsvillemn.gov/meetings, or can view the meetings on Comcast channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join, or by calling 651-372-8299. More information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. The next item on the agenda is our announcements, and we have two proclamations this evening. Our announcements have to do with all of our upcoming meetings. Council meetings are held on Tuesday, October 5th, at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, October 19th at 5:30 p.m. We have two work sessions scheduled for Tuesday, October 12th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, October 26th at 5:30 p.m. We also have a special work session with ISD 191 board, and that's on Monday, September 27th at 5:30 p.m. That meeting will be held at the Ames Center. All other meetings of the Burnsville City Council are held in the chambers. Now, we have two proclamations this evening, and I'm going to read them from that side of the dais. The first proclamation is for Manufacturing Month, October 2021. Whereas manufacturing is a dynamic and robust industry crucial to the health and strength of Minnesota's diverse economy, and whereas manufacturing added $50.8 billion to Minnesota's economy in 2020, representing the second largest contribution, 14%, to the state's gross domestic product by any industry. And whereas workers took home $21.9 billion in wages from Minnesota's manufacturing jobs in 2020, the second largest total payroll among private sector industries. And whereas workers took home $315.7 million in wages from Burnsville's manufacturing jobs in 2020. And whereas manufacturing jobs in Burnsville account for approximately 25.6% of Dakota County's total manufacturing employment. And whereas manufactured exports brought $19 billion into the Minnesota economy in 2020. Whereas manufacturing in Minnesota pays an average annual wage of $70,863, which is 10% higher than the state's overall average wage. Whereas manufacturing provides 309,000 highly skilled, well-paying jobs, which significantly contribute to Minnesota's high standard of living and economic vitality. And whereas manufacturing provided Burnsville with 4,671 jobs in 2020, which makes it Burnsville's third largest employing industry sector. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Couch, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Manufacturing Month, proclaimed this 21st day of September. And I would like to have, is it, Ms. Regina Dean is our Assistant Community Development Director, and she's going to receive this for.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Harming with the Chamber of Commerce. Unfortunately, was unable to make it tonight, but she thanks you as well and council.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then the next proclamation is for Community Planning Month, October 2021. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places. And whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live. And whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. The full benefit of planning require public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. Whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And whereas American Planning Association and its professional institute, the American Institute for Certified Planners, endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions sound planning and plan implementation make to the quality of our settlement and environment. Whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the Planning Commission and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Burnsville. Whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community and regional planners of the city of Burnsville and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by their profession. Now therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Community Planning Month, proclaimed this 21st day of September. And accepting this is Miss Sarah. That's right, because you're married now. and Terrace. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
yes. Thank you. And thank you for everything you all do.
Of the day.
The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form? Anyone who wishes to address the council? Ms. Collins, is there anyone in queue? No? Okay, we will move on. The next item is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. City Manager Lee, are there any emergency items?
Madam Mayor, staff would request that we add a resolution extending the mayoral declared a local emergency, as well as an update by our Public Works Director on the storm cleanup.
Thank you. May I have a motion? There's a motion for the added item to the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Members of the council, do you have any emergency items to be added to the agenda? Okay, thank you. We will then move on. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? City Manager Lee?
No, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council? Council members, I would like to remove item 4G, and this is the application of the Burnsville Center Capital Holding and a preliminary plat for the Burnsville Center. I'd like that item to be removed for a separate discussion and vote.
Move the balance.
Councilmember Keeley moves adoption of the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and a motion carries. Council members, the shopping center application is before us, and I believe that Ms. Madden is going to give us an overview, a summary overview, and then we can have a discussion on this application. Ms. Madden?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. So just to give a quick, brief overview of what we discussed at the Planning Commission last week with regards to this application. The current owner, new owner of the Burnsville Center Mall has worked with staff over recent months on an application for a new plat or subdivision of the mall property. This plat did necessitate an amendment to the plan unit development for the shopping center, as well as a subdivision ordinance variance related to some of the new lot lines that were created with the parcels requested by the applicant. So the application before you this evening is related to just those two larger parcels that were owned by the Burnsville Center Mall entity and not the anchor tenants. So it's about 47 acres, and it is related to the Center Village vision, which was adopted for this site and the area as a whole. But there are no exterior improvements as part of this application. It is related directly to the plat and new subdivision, which necessitated this land use approval. So there are 10 lots and 1 outlot proposed as part of the application. And just a quick overview of the subdivision shown on your slides here. That there is a division of some of the parking fields and some of the standalone buildings that currently exist out at the mall site to be these new parcels. I can stand for questions, and otherwise I'm here to facilitate your discussion.
Questions for Ms. Madden? I do. Ms. Madden, one of the things is that, I understand what the staff worked with the owners, the Cohan Group, with subdividing their properties. What I do want to make sure is that they understand that whoever they sell these outlots to, need to understand that we have a vision for Center Village. They also need to understand that there's green space, because if I look at all of the allowable impervious surface, I want to make sure that everybody understands, we've spent a lot of money because the shopping center did not have a drainage system. And so we put a lot of money to build a drainage system that comes off of the shopping center, and because of all of the work that went into it and paid for by the citizens of Burnsville, and also we had some county grant money for that, helped us to take Early Lake off the impaired waters list. I do not want to see us go back, because when I look at all of this, and I know the plan that we did adopt, have green space and also have park systems incorporated into it. So my hope is that the Cohan Group understands what we want. And when you do sell the outlots that you carved out from your property, that whomever buys this understands what our vision is. Now, we have all of the regulatory tools already adopted, and we have all of the economic tools already adopted, but they need to comply with the vision for Center Village and the vision for implementing the different product mix. But most importantly, I want to make sure that we have green space for the park systems that needs to go in there, but also making sure that we have a good drainage system that's going to continue to improve our water bodies, because it flows all the way down into Sunset Pond. And that's important, because we had to spend money, because in the 70s, we didn't have a stormwater drainage ordinance in place. We do now. So, and I'm grateful that the folks from Cohan are on the Zoom call, so welcome, and that you can hear what we're going to be talking about, and you know what is expected from you and whomever you're going to be selling these outlots to. Because I see a lot of impervious surface. And, you know, I want to understand where's the drainage system, and I think our Public Works Director will want to know that too when we finally get a developer coming in for any of that. Councilmember Keeley, you have some remarks that you want to make.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, first and foremost, I'm very happy as a lifelong veteran of the retail industry. We've been obviously talking about this property for a very long time. The prior owner had let it decline to the point of we felt at some point maybe there's no return, but the sale, the initial sale, some improvements to the cleanup areas of the mall, and now this announcement is starting to really show me that you're a serious owner that has an intent on being able to reinvest in the main body of the mall and bring certainly most aspects of our vision. There's going to be some change. Obviously, when you set out and put a vision together, it's an idea, and it's an idea for people to rally around, but the final plan may modify a little bit. But it's very exciting to see some movement, property interest from restaurants that want to come in and build on the site. To Madam Mayor's point, the plan does call for some green space. That's a lot more green space than what's there now. Right now, it's bituminous and roofs. So it's a giant umbrella catching a whole lot of water, and I'm glad we put in the filtration system so it wouldn't continue to contaminate Early Lake, and it's helping us clean it up. But I think we'll have a lot of steps down the road that we can go through where we can address some of the green space desires that the city has, and work with you as a developer to make sure that we've got a center village that is realized through both our vision and your plans as well. But I noted in our backgrounds that our planning commission was very excited, kind of spoke through their excitement that something was happening and things were moving forward, and I would share that feeling. I'm very excited that we have movement. I'm anxious to see what comes in first, some of the new restaurants, and at some point, really anxious to see what you're going to do when you reinvest more into the main body of the mall and the tenant mix that you can attract to backfill some of that vacant space that everyone sees today when we walk through the mall. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'd love to hear from the applicant, representative of Cohan Group, if he's got some comments to respond to ours before maybe the rest of the council throws more questions at him or comments.
I have some, maybe perhaps you would want to hear from all of the council members before you make your remarks.
That's fine too.
Okay, because I don't know if a question was made.
Well, I think we made some statements that he might want to respond to.
Well, I think he can respond to all of them. I'll go to Councilmember Gustafson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, when you bought the mall, I was a bit concerned when you told us that you weren't a developer, that you were real estate landowners. That concerned me looking at our vision and how it was going to get done. I think your plan to sell the lots, separate them out, get them replatted, will go a long ways to getting to our vision on that. It was what we're trying to get done, so bravo for that move. It's a good idea. I am concerned also about the green space in there and the drainage. We spent, I think, around $15 million in mitigating that over the years. Unfortunately, in the 70s when they built it, nobody thought about anything like that, and so we spent a lot of money fixing that problem. I am kind of curious, and I don't know if I can get into this or not, but you have 4 owners out there, and I'm kind of curious as how the covenants amongst those 4 owners are going to work as you add more owners to the mix of getting things done down there. We experienced a problem here on Travelers Trail in Nicollet just a few years ago with some covenants that got in our way, and I don't want to see us getting another one of those. I know it's a private matter, but it does concern me is how do you get this done? How do you get the green space done? You've been on the news a lot up here lately. I'm sure you're aware of that. Our television stations are putting really nice pictures out there of all these tree-lined paths and everything like that. And I'm concerned that it's not going to look quite like that when it gets done, which is going to be a disappointment for quite a few people that have thought it was a beautiful idea. And, you know, that was done, not just the 5 of us coming up with it. There were many, many groups and many, many people that were involved, from the Chamber of Commerce to private businesses to our citizens and that. And so if you can kind of think about how you would handle that, I know you put in your background that you want to talk about the prospective buyers, about our vision, but how do you get that incorporated so that there's something in there that has some teeth to that? And again, you don't have to answer that question now, because I'm sure we have a few more people that have something to say to you.
Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you. Interested in how this is going to turn out. I'm happy to see that you're taking an active role, but I mean, when you purchase a property, that's kind of the expectation that you do so. Yes, the city does have a vision for this property, but if we wanted to execute that vision, then we should buy that property. We do not own it. You own it. However, yes, you do have to make sure that you're not harming other people by having excessive stormwater runoff and that type of thing. But once you purchase that property, that is yours to do with. If we want to control that, and if we want to have our vision going forward, then that should have been our purchase. We declined to do that. Thank you.
Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but just more of an observation with this. You know, with the subdivision of the property will come the likely sale of each of these individual plots, and then hopefully some interaction with these new owners. Our staff is fully aware of the vision here, so I would take it upon ourselves to introduce ourselves to our new owners in Burnsville as these pieces are sold off, so we can introduce our vision and hope that our new neighbors like what they see. Thank you.
Mr. Resnick, your thoughts?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you're unmuted. We can hear you, sir.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I just wanted to kind of set the record straight. I'm not part of Cohan Retail. I'm part of Fourth Dimension Properties. I partner with Mike Cohen, but he owns substantially more regional malls than I own. So just for the record. But I took some notes on some of the questions, and I hope I get all of them. And if I don't, just tell me that I missed one of them. About the green space, I read through the vision, and we're completely in support of making it pedestrian friendly and unlocking the southern portion. The issue is going to be that we don't own the Sears parcel. I think it's up for sale. We certainly own about, I think it's about 6.5 acres just to the south of it, now that we have that right of way coming in. But certainly I'd support mixed use, multifamily, green space, anything in that combined area. I think it would attract a lot of people to the mall. As far as, us not being a developer, in the last 2 months, not being a developer, I've been able to attract a hospital system to Midland, Michigan, and a development site, a multifamily development in Orlando, and an outpatient surgical center. So it's about, kind of knowing how to sell the space to the right people and getting them in. I think the vision's a very good vision. As far as the new owners and having more people to go to get permission, you won't. It's still the same it's still the same four groups. The other groups would not have a say in anything. So, so that wouldn't be an issue. And then as far as improving the mall itself, we started a project recently to, I mean, we inherited this mall with some pretty disgusting carpet. I visited back in July and it was in horrible shape. So we're putting in the tiles. I think we hired a contractor recently. So we're going to make the mall look better so it shows better the prospective tenants. But the only way to get the bigger prospective tenants is, in my opinion, two ways really. One is to fill the Gordman's box and to attract the developers to the two out parcels that that are in the proposal. And the other and the biggest one is to attract multifamily mixed use to the Sears site, because if you have 600, 700 people waking up across the street from a mall, I think they'll venture in, and I think the tenants will come. That's kind of the best way to do it. And from experience, I know that it works. I think I covered everything. I'm not sure. I just took a couple of notes here.
Rooftops always helps, right, Mr. Resnick, as a developer?
Absolutely.
Rooftops always helps. So, but I'm glad to hear that you are supportive of the Center Village design and concept, because that's the vision. You may not have been a part of it, but CBL and the others were a part of that. So we didn't do this in a vacuum. And this is about the community of Burnsville. And so I'm glad that you did visit the mall, because it does need a lot of work, and it is your property, and you need to make it show well if you're going to try and attract buyers for your outlots. So, and then if you're going to want to reinvest in the mall, it has to show up better than what it is now. And then there's a lot of dark spaces that you're going to have to fill very quickly. And it sounds like you have a great deal of experience in attracting new tenants. So
Yes.
we'll probably see more of you, Mr. Resnick, in Burnsville.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed my visit. I think it's in such a great location, and the people were so nice. I think you were doing a promotion of the local businesses, and I went to visit a couple of them. I think one of them was like Saigon Market.
Yep.
And then there was another one. I forget the name, but I try to hop to as many of them as I could, and give them a little business. So.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Councilmember Gustafson has a question or some remarks.
I don't have a question for the applicant, but I do have a question for staff. On the Aldridge right-of-way that we've negotiated in this, is that large enough that we can actually create a greenway ourselves through there so that it's not just a street running through?
It's underneath, right?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councilmember. I actually will defer that question, and maybe on the road construction style to our Public Works Director. From what the city engineer kind of has gone over with in the review and through the visioning and the traffic study, the idea is that the road right-of-way would be wide enough for a boulevard style of construction of road. Does that answer your question?
Yes, similar to like a Nicollet or the Burnsville Parkway type situation?
Similar, yes,
Thank
with
you.
the landscaping. Mhm.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson, you have any other comments to make?
Sounds like you solved it correctly.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Good. Okay. Are there any other thoughts for Mr. Resnick? Mr. Resnick, thank you for joining us this evening, because it's always great when we can communicate and share ideas, because I know perhaps as you continue down the line, you know that we have an economic toolbox, and you probably learned when you came in July that we did get authorization from the legislature to establish a TIF district for Center Village. So I am sure,
Understood.
as everybody is going to, all of this is about a give and take.
Yes.
You want something,
Absolutely.
we need something for the community long-term. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. And this is not your first rodeo if you're doing projects throughout the United States, if you're in Orlando and others. So,
Yeah.
and one of the things is that it's very easy to go on Google and find out what you really did in those shopping centers, and we can see what you attracted and what you brought in. So, but when next time you're in, let us know, and be happy to meet with you as well.
Sounds great.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion, second by Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Resnick, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Take care.
Okay. Members of the council, we are now in the regular agenda, and the first item is a public hearing. And this is to propose the Capstone 35 Business Assistance. And I think it's Ms. Dean, you are presenting this item, Ms. Dean?
Yes, I don't have a formal presentation, but this is a public hearing to formally recognize the grants that were received. The city had applied for a series of grants through DEED and Dakota County and the Metropolitan Council, and we were successful, so we're officially accepting those grants, and we will have a sub-grant agreement with the developer to make sure that everything gets paid and meets the requirements of the grants.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure. We have been going through this with the applicant, with Capstone, and also with our staff. Anybody have any questions, or are you ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented with a comment that the $3.5 million that was assembled in various grants, deed containment cleanup, deed redevelopment, Met Council tax-based revitalization, the Dakota County Environmental Legacy Fund, and this another piece being a TIF from the city. Was one of the few examples, I think, over the years that I've sat at this dais where there was this many different sources of funds coming to help remediate some really bad soils, to be able to put some buildings on what was several feet of peat, unbuildable soil in an area that we'd like to see developed, but takes quite a bit. So really big compliments, kudos to the staff, because this, I think, was one of the heaviest lifts of pulling in sources from all over the place to be able to minimize the amount of TIF that we offer and maximize our grant opportunities with the state Met Council and utilizing our legacy fund money. So with that, great job, and I'll move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion, second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the application of Eric Gullickson for a variance to allow a new single-family home without a basement or cellar to be constructed in R1, one-family residential zone at 3105 Fox Point Road. And we are asked to approve the variance and to adopt the findings of fact. And presenting this item is our city planner, Ms. Deb Garros. Ms. Garros.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. The application before you this evening is a variance application. The Planning Commission held a hearing, variances do not require public hearings, but they held a hearing on this last week on the 13th. There was a neighborhood meeting that was held on September 2nd for the project. And there are a number of individuals who have commented on the application, residents, and we have provided their letters and emails to you in the council background report and also within the Planning Commission report. The application is Actually, it's more complicated than a standard variance because of we have several different aspects of this where state and federal law apply. So quite a bit of the work that was affiliated with this project, we received assistance from the city attorney's office, and there is a memo from their office and some case law that was also provided with your packet. The subject site is a vacant lot within the Fox Point neighborhood. There are 2 vacant lots within the general area. One is this lot, and there is another vacant lot, although it's not in the Fox Point Plat. There is another vacant lot, 4 lots to the east of the subject site. And this shows the subject site in relationship to the entire plat, if you will, of Fox Point. So you can see that it's all developed with single-family homes, some very large lots, and in fact, the subject site is larger than our 10,000 square foot standard. It's a little bit over 13,000 square feet. For the application, it's in a single-family neighborhood, not a planned unit development, so it has the straight zoning. The lot, a little over 13,000 square feet. What the applicant requests to do is to build a new single-family home, approximately 2,900 square feet, and they are requesting the variance specifically so they do not need to install a basement or cellar. Currently, in the ordinance, in the R1 zone, a single-family home does require a basement or cellar, so they are requesting a variance not to do that. Their proposal includes operating a licensed residential facility for 55-year and older folks in wheelchairs, so with disabilities. With that comes the issues related to reasonable accommodation for those folks with disabilities. Also, the Americans with Disabilities Act has application to this. And there are some things related to the Minnesota State Building Code also that apply. There is, the property owners did submit to the city covenants, so there are private covenants within the development. Those are not something that are implemented by the city, but by the private property owners. So those covenants then would be applicable if they are recorded. In terms of the Minnesota State Building Code, one of the cases that was presented or discussed is that the state has had rulings where they've come to basically indicate that if you have the state building code, which is enacted and adopted, and it sets forth these basic uses, and with those, things like a safe room or shelters, which is something we initially had asked, well, if you don't have a basement, can there be a requirement for some type of shelter? We found that the city cannot do that because that is something beyond what the building code requires, and we are not able to be more strict than the building code. With the application, there's a site plan. The site plan meets all of the setback, lot area, development standards, performance standards of the ordinance with the exception of the basement or cellar. This is the front and right elevation. Basically, single family, it's a larger single family home, 6 bedrooms, but they have a double car garage exceeding the requirements of the ordinance. It's basically a single-story slab-on-grade construction. There will be a enclosed sunroom on the back. That would be on the north side of the structure. A small cement patio on the exterior adjacent to that. And they'll have a covered porch on the front part of the elevation that you can see. Then we have the rear and left elevations. In terms of the floor plan, as I indicated, about 2,900 square feet, sunroom on the back with the patio, 6 bedrooms. There is an office, 2.5 bathrooms, kitchen area, dining room, living room, and the attached garage. In terms of variance considerations, the council has a policy that we look at to evaluate variances, trying to look at them through the same lens, if you will, to make sure that we are applying consistently the various practical difficulty stances. In terms of the policy, the result of that were that it resulted in 7 positive, 3 negative, and then 5 of the statements within the policy were not applicable. This is not in a shoreline district, so that does not apply. So I have a situation where the property owner proposes to use the site in what's considered a reasonable manner, and it is a single-family home, and a licensed group home is something that the city is required to allow for 6 or fewer individuals in a state licensed facility. The plight of the landowner cannot be due to circumstances, or it needs to be due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. We have an existing lot of record that's been vacant for many years. The home to be built is going to be set up to accommodate disabled residents. Does meet all the zoning requirements, but for the basement and cellar. And then the approval would be considered a reasonable accommodation. In terms of the slab-on-grade construction, the reason that the applicant is wanting to do that is it's easier for folks within wheelchairs to get into and out of the facilities and maneuver within the facilities. If they did a basement, they would have to increase the height, and they would need to install ramps in locations such as in the garage to get to the main level of the house from the outdoors to the first level of the house. The applicant also stated in their application that there are financial considerations along with this as well, and it would be less expensive to do the slab-on-grade construction. And in terms of the variance, if granted, will not alter essential character of the locality. There's a difference here in between what the neighborhood looks at in terms of essential character and what the city looks at. What we are looking at is based on the state statutes and the reviews, and that single family is a permitted use within the district. And also the state has identified that these residential facilities for 6 or fewer people are also something that fits within neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, single family particularly. In terms of the planning considerations, we did have a neighborhood meeting. All of the folks that have submitted comments where you have the letters and emails are indicated. The city does not regulate group homes. That is something that's allowed by state statute, and we are not even able to review those or regulate those. We have reasonable accommodation, which the city attorney can address probably better than I, but that goes with the Americans with Disabilities Act and federal fair housing programs. And then we have recommended a condition that they need to meet the landscape section of the zoning code. That does require 2 front yard trees. Staff is supportive of the request. The recommendation from the Planning Commission is that they recommended on a 3-2 vote approval of the variance, subject to the condition requiring the trees. The 2 votes that were objecting, if you will, basically the rationale there was that they did not feel that the structure that's proposed, the design elements, were consistent or compatible with the other buildings in the neighborhood. And then also felt that the application was more focused on economic consideration than reasonable accommodation. So those were their dissenting votes. And with that, I can stand for questions.
Questions? Councilmember Schultz.
Did they articulate how they thought it did not fit the other single-family homes?
Basically in what they had stated, let me pull that out for you. We did include that with the background. Let's see here. sorry about that.
It's in the background.
Mayor, council members. Commissioners Awad and John did not support the variance. They stated the following reason: does not fit well with the neighborhood, as the building looks like an inexpensive starter-type home, would not fit in with the stately-looking homes in the area, and then that the variance was seemed to be based more on finances than the reasonable accommodation.
Thank you.
Mr. Gullickson, are you present? Yes. Do you want to speak? And then there are members of the neighborhood who wishes to speak. Mr. Gullickson.
Thank you. Thank you for considering this. Do you have any specific questions that you would like me to address?
You met with the neighborhood and the HOA.
Yeah, the neighborhood,
Yes.
so there's not technically an HOA, homeowners association. The neighborhood, according to what I understand, does have recorded covenants. It doesn't have an association per se where you pay every month for some type of benefit. But there are covenants recorded, yes.
Yes. And how did that meeting go for you, Mr. Gullickson?
There was some opposition to the project for various reasons. Some of the concerns that they had was traffic, obviously, and we helped explain what that might be like. Other objections were that it is a one-story home and there are primarily two-story homes in the neighborhood. There are other single-story homes. Just the majority of them down this street are 2 stories. And other considerations that they voiced were that it has a fairly big footprint. It's 2,900 square feet. The lot, however, is fairly large, over 13,000 square feet. So it does meet all the requirements for that. But some of the houses in that neighborhood are bigger and some of them are smaller. The house on each side of this parcel is, smaller footprint than this one. So.
Yeah, I think they're about 10,000 square foot lots.
Yeah. So, and I also in attendance here is Marta Osgood. She runs the home health care side of it. So if you have questions for her, considering the operations of the home health care, that's here too. So
Yeah, because there is another senior home. This is for the home that you're proposing is for folks who are disabled, but not necessarily seniors. Am I correct?
55 plus is kind of the
55
target.
plus.
Yeah.
So they're
these are-
seniors.
Yes, yep. And these are people that need care that can't safely stay in residences of their own at home. So
Yeah.
they provide services.
Because the neighborhood is very open to senior living, because I think just across from where you're building and over, there is a Visiting Angels site. It's not right on Fox Point, but it's in the Cedar Bridge area, in that subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
So.
So there isn't an objection to the residents. They want it to be compatible.
They want it to fit the neighborhood. And, yep,
yes.
and they also spoke up, what may or may not have an effect on property values, all those sorts of things,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Okay, Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. It didn't directly say in the background, Mr. Gullickson, but you own other properties for this use?
Yes, we do, yeah.
How many do you?
So we have a couple up and operating right now, and we're building others in other cities nearby, primarily Dakota County. The South Metro is the area that we typically target, so.
And are all of those others one-story homes as well?
They are. They're all between 2,900 and 3,000 square foot. Yeah, yes, yeah.
Is there a website, or are you just doing this as an individual? Because I tried looking up to see if you had a portfolio.
Yeah, Living Hope Homes is the company that operates.
Okay. And then my next question would be relative to the operational. So Ms. Osgood is operating this home, or is she just the
Yes.
overseer of the whole program?
She's operating the home. Would you
This-
like to speak with her?
I don't, not
I
in,
was just incidentally going to say that Living Hope Homes and Living Hope Care, which is the care company that operates the homes, is also.
Yeah, I think, come to the, so that people at home can hear you.
So Living Hope Homes, which is the Living Hope Care, is the care company of Living Hope Homes, and both of those actually are Burnsville companies that are in Burnsville as well, so. Not whether that matters or not is, but we are local companies and we really care about the community. And one of the things I did want to say is that Eric in his variance request had stated, that we did not need a basement because our residents cannot use a basement. But in our request as a company to be operating, we collaborate together to come up with the best plan. And so, although it wasn't in the request, our request was that it be accessible so that people can wheel in, wheel out, without changing the look of the neighborhood by adding ramps to the front door, which, not just a ramp to the garage, but one in the front door would be a necessity.
So I have a question for you. So you're with Living Hope Homes. Mr. Gullickson, you're the developer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the developer, but you're the one who will be
Operating
owning
the home.
and operating. Okay, that makes it clear. So you're the developer, and you're the owner of the service,
Yes.
and you will be operating it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I have Mr. Joel Peschel. Mr. Peschel? And if you give us your address, Mr. Peschel, for the record.
3112 Fox Point Circle. We're directly a small cul-de-sac with 4 homes directly down from this lot. What I find is, last Monday, I attended the Planning Commission meeting on this when they approved it 3-2. That's right. But I brought up the object that Edina Realty back in May had this lot for sale, and also a home at 3108 Fox Point Circle, which is a home adjacent to ours. Now, a company, it wasn't sold to an individual. It was sold to Geneva Suites.
Yeah.
Geneva Suites
Yeah.
is a rental home and also a senior citizen type of community. And from all the information we have received so far, is Geneva Suites intends to remodel this home and put in 8 residents at 3108.
Okay.
Now, 3105 Fox Point Drive puts in 6 residents. So now what you're talking about 14 residents moving into a neighborhood who hasn't had a new residence in probably 30 or 40 years. Now, you're not talking about individual people who are locked up in their room. You're talking about people who have families, who have children, who have brothers, sisters, who want to come and visit them. And I just cannot visualize the excessive amount of traffic that these 2 homes would generate in that small community. I mean, I stand here before you and I'll say right outward, I would be in favor of either or home. If we have 1 home, that's fine. I mean, I'm 89 years old and I'm a senior myself. And for years, I worked with Lingblusen over in St. Paul, senior living residents, raising millions of dollars for senior citizens. So I'm not, it's a sentimental type of thing. I mean, you say, we got a home for disabled seniors that leave them come there and live, but they don't want to put a basement in. Now, we had a tornado touchdown on Cliff in 13, less than 1 mile away from this resident. Now, if that would hit that home without a basement, forget about it. They're all on their way to La La Land. But by the way, if you do get the permit and you do build it and WCCO says go to your basement, your residents can come to my house. But anyhow, I would, what I guess I'm asking the council is to delay approval of this motion tonight until you find out what's going on at 3108 Fox Point Circle. Because that certainly would have a big bearing on the neighborhood as a whole. And, you know, I think you're all residents of Burnsville, and if this is what's happening in your neighborhood, you'd certainly all want to find out why, what, and where, you know, why is this all happening? So my motion is to ask for you to delay this motion this evening for approval until you find out about 3108 Fox Point Circle and see if they do intend to move in, and that'd be a tremendous load on this area at 14. So that, I think I spoke enough about it, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your efforts and your work.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Peschel. You know, Mr. Peschel, Geneva Suites has quite a few of their product in Burnsville, and not too long ago, they bought a home just like they did in your neighborhood at Wildwood in southwest Burnsville. But what they did there, because they bought a home that has a basement, but they put elevators in.
Well, they intend to do that with this one.
Yeah, so they put elevators in so that the residents would have movement up and down all three levels.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the same way, at 3108 that's what they told me that they intended to do is put elevators in.
Okay.
But like I say, you know, elevators or not, I mean, that's, what I'm concerned about is 8 new residents in 3108, 6 new residents in 3105.
Yeah.
And it's not the residents themselves. If they all stay there and nobody ever come and visit, that'd be wonderful, but you're gonna get a lot of traffic.
Okay, yeah,
And so I'm asking you to delay this until we find out.
okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Peschel. Next is Trevor Shannon. Oh, yes, let's see, Mr. Shannon had signed up, and then you can come after him. Mr. Trevor Shannon. Yeah, and your address for the record, please.
Yes, thank you. 3109 Fox Point Road.
Thank you.
So need these as we get going here. But my concerns are, I think I've noted them in some correspondence. Largely, a lot of our neighborhood has similar concerns. And you just heard from Joel, his concerns. Mine as the same as Joel's, but in addition to that, so I have young kids, and my kids learned to ride their bike right outside my house, right on Fox Point. And you know, as I think about the additional traffic and parking, especially if we're talking about 14 new citizens and the workers at these facilities, I'm in a position where, you know, I can't just let the kids ride their bike on my street, on our street, you know? And it's not just that, it's just who are the workers gonna be? And I'm gonna have to constantly be monitoring our own traffic outside of our home, the personnel in and out. We don't know who the visitors will be of these guests. I'm gonna have to keep monitoring all of that. And part of that's parenting, I get it, right? And, but also, some of this is to me, preventable. And so that's another concern of mine, is where do I sit with safety of my kids, being at home in our yard? And so that's a big concern. Obviously, that's a very different concern than where Joel is at, you know, but we do have the rest of the residents too have other concerns with the property. And thank you for your explanation and our discussions. This is very, very well presented. One thing that I did want to touch on with the variance itself is, as I looked at the statute, the state statute, 462-357, it states variances may be granted, variances may be granted when the applicant for the variance establishes that there are practical difficulties in complying with the zoning ordinance. And you touched on the practical difficulties. My concern there, it further goes on to state, economic considerations alone do not constitute a practical difficulty. If you look at the application, there's one reason given for the application for the variance. That is, it would be an unnecessary expense that proves to make the project financially unattainable. That's it. That's the only thing stated in the variance application. So by state statute, that alone would not constitute practical difficulty, which then, to me, would negate the application. So that's what I got.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Okay. And if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Mary Cathall. I live at 3004 Fox Point Road. And we had a meeting with the Geneva Suites people this afternoon about some trees on their property and that about our property. And they stated that they are planning 8 to 10, but preferably 10 residents at the Fox Point Circle, the 3108 Fox Point Circle. So that was information directly from the owner and CEO person today, this afternoon. But I think understanding the management group and their ambitions would be important in understanding what you're allowing to come into the 3105 Fox Point Road location. And I think seeing what their other facilities look like and the quality of construction and that sort of thing, it would be important for the council members to really understand their, of the 11 proposed properties listed on the website for Living Hope Homes. They're the only ones that are operational now are one or maybe two. Well, I was at Prior Lake and it's not done. That's not the one. Oh, okay. Anyway, they don't have a lot of experience and staffing already in the wings. And so I think the council members should know specifics about their experience levels and their other properties. But also, I have concerns about the traffic issues at that intersection because the driveway to 3105 is exactly opposite the street of Fox Point Circle. And so and there's a fire hydrant on the lot. So anyone who had a emergency vehicle or whatever that was directly outside of the lot there would potentially block all the rest of us down further to the west and everybody coming out of Fox Point Circle. That if there's congestion and parking parked cars along there, it would be very easy to have, negative situations. There's trees and there's not a way you can drive across somebody's lawn to get out of the area. You're trapped in the area if that intersection is too congested. So I think, stating that, usually one single-family home only has 10 people in and out, and not really analyzing where you're putting this and the potential for serious traffic issues. I think there should be more thought put into it. And, sorry, I'm full of thoughts. But we are totally not opposed to having seniors in the area. That is absolutely not an issue. We applaud that, and we applaud good care for people with disabilities, and so I think we should make sure that's understood. But also putting in an appearance that would look like some decorative components, or something that would look more than just total plain simple building, large building, I think would be welcomed to our. And those of you who say this neighborhood has a number of single-story homes, well, all of the homes that I know of that are all of the homes there are, they may look like a single story from the front, but like our home has just a single story appearance from the front, but we have 3 bedrooms and a bath and an attic upstairs, and we have a full basement. And the rest of them are all multi-level, 2 or 3, most of them are 3 levels, even though from the front you just see a single front of a house. It's the kind of the back that opens up into the full extent of the homes there. And the one that's going to be potentially turned into 10 residents for the Geneva Suites building, I mean, that's a way over 5,000 square foot home, but if you look at the front of it, it looks like a single-story building, but it just is a wedge-shaped construction, and it goes multi-levels. So I think the comment that, there are already one-level houses is deceptive.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mrs. Satchel. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Jim Bailey. I live at 2705 Hayes Drive. I'm also a board member for the Cedar Bridge Homeowners Association. So I wanted to come today and just add my support to our fellow neighbors living up on Fox Point. That there's a few of them that are actually part of our association.
And you do have an active association at Cedar Bridge.
Yes,
Yeah,
for some of the
I
homes,
see.
yes, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Some of them required as part of the original development. A few others have joined on their own. But the comments that I want to kind of add to what you've already heard is that to call this new structure a single-family residence is a stretch. I mean, at best, it could be called multi-generational for someone else that would want to live in it, other than the commercial purpose for which it's now intended. And in my past working life, I used to be a project manager, and I think a lot about the future of things. And in this case, you have a small business, most of them which never last more than, 10, 15 years. And if they were to operate this and were not successful for some reason, or just decided they didn't want to do it anymore, who's going to buy that property? And you can say, oh, well, a single family could move in there. What are you going to do with 6 bedrooms in the way that this thing is laid out? It would have to be remodeled. Or, more likely what would happen is some enterprising person would snatch it up and turn it into an Airbnb. We already have a home on Cedar Bridge itself, down at the corner of Cedar Bridge and Hayes, where in effect that's really what happened. We've tried our best to keep the design appropriate for single family, but they found ways to thwart that. And really all it is, it's a big rental. Half a dozen people live there. They park cars out on the street. We've attempted many times to try to get the police to ticket them and keep those cars off the street. But every time we got snow, the plow has to go around them, and they still sit there today. And I would imagine this will be the same issue for this new property, and especially even further into the future if it would no longer be a home, as they're now talking about. So that's what I worry about is that 5, 10 years from now, God knows what it'll be. More likely, something as I've described. Somebody will pick it up and start renting out all those rooms. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. And yes, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Steve Devich. I reside at 3009 Fox Point Road, one house removed from the project area. I'm not going to repeat what others have said, and I did submit a letter that was included as part of the Planning Commission packet that you folks had access to. The couple of things that I will say is that I understand the narrow issue that you have before you, and that is the matter of the variance. You're not in a position to regulate what a business like that does, and it's classified by greater laws to being acceptable in an R1 area. When I look at the application itself, it was pretty apparent to me that when the application was submitted, it was all about the finances of putting a basement under it. And you can look at it obviously from the perspective of reasonable accommodation. And I think that what a reasonable accommodation is, it's not, that is something that's somewhat subjective, that the City Council has a purview to decide. And now whether there should be a full basement under that facility, or a partial basement underneath that facility, or whether a partial basement is a reasonable accommodation, those are things that that you need to consider, I think. Obviously, the variance goes with the property, and if the variance is granted, it's going to stick with that property forever. And I won't repeat what Mr. Bailey said, but with the footprint of that building, if there's no basement whatsoever and the variance is fully granted, I do think in the future that does present some real challenges for what could happen to that property. Certainly not something very attractive that a family would want to go in and buy and move into. And the other thing, a couple of other considerations that are somewhat tangent to what you're looking at, but are disappointing to me and of a concern to me. From the time Mr. Gullickson bought that property until about a week before he submitted his application, if you looked at that lot and looked at the rest of the homes in our area, it stuck out like a sore thumb. I don't know if someone in the neighborhood finally called Burnsville to come out and get him to cut his grass and maintain the lot, or he did it because it was a week before the time he submitted his application. But that's the only time that he did any maintenance on that lot, from the time he bought it till the time he submitted his application. So do I have a lot of faith in what Mr. Gullickson is going to do going forward in terms of the neighbors? Not so much. We had a meeting on September 2nd with Mr. Gullickson. Many of the residents were there. A lot of issues were brought up, some about the structure itself and the things that I believe are somewhat before you. Also disappointing to me was that Mr. Gullickson said during that meeting a number of times he was going to look at these issues. To my knowledge, at least to me, nothing's ever come back that he's ever made any indication of any change he would make or any modification or anything to address the things the neighbors brought up. So to me, performance, at least in the short time that I've seen and worked and dealt with Mr. Gullickson, are a pretty good predictor of what we can look forward to in the future. So those are basically my issues. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Devish. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Members of the council, your thoughts. Councilmember Schultz.
So I have a question for the community members because I'm curious on this. Usually, neighbors are unhappy with the thought of a rather large permanent ramp being built onto the front of a home. And it sounds like you'd prefer the ramp than it not having a basement. So you'd rather a permanent ramp be built on the front of a home and it not be built on a slab.
Mr. Devish, you want to come to the podium, please?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Schultz, I can't speak for all the neighbors, but my sense is that we would rather see, we'd rather see the house built with the ramps on it. I mean, there's homes all over where people need to have accessibility issues to get into the front of a home, and you see ramps. You know, that's absolutely, at least from my view, that's absolutely fine. You know, if in the future the use of that property were to change, you know, ramp could be changed to something else. But the slab, once it's granted, cannot be changed to anything else. So at least from my way of looking at it, yeah, that's a much more palatable thing. And I do want to say, no one in the neighborhood is opposed to the facility itself. It's the issue just that we're talking about here. Thank you.
So the issue is you would prefer to have a ramp and have a basement?
I would invite any other neighbor to speak. I don't want to speak for them. I'm not their spokesperson, but thank you for asking.
Absolutely. I know we have other single-family homes in Burnsville, kind of peppered throughout, that have been marketed to 55 and older that are on a slab and they don't have a basement and they don't have a ramp. And generally, the neighbors have preferred that because it just blends in, like no one even notices that. So I'm a little surprised because this is probably the first time I've heard neighbors who would prefer the large ramps in front.
Yes, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and then.
My name is Jean Morozic, and I'm at 3100 Fox Point Road. I concur with my neighbor regarding the issue of the ramp. What we're trying to do, many of us, are take a long-term approach to this property. And that being said, it is our, many people's opinions that the structure that's being proposed is not a good long-term fit for the neighborhood. So businesses come and businesses go, but that structure is going to remain. And my concern, one of my concerns, is that if that structure is no longer being used for its intended purposes, that its resale value is really not very good. If I was a parent with young kids moving into the neighborhood, there's no way I would buy a house that didn't have a basement in Minnesota. We just had a tornado touchdown at Cliff and 13. I would have lots of other choices. I can't tell if this thing is coming in and out. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good.
I can't imagine purchasing a house without a basement when every other house in the neighborhood has one. So for me, it's a safety concern, and I'm not really interested in having a property sit vacant for a long time. I think that would be a detribution to the neighborhood. And I'm sorry I was a little bit late due to work, so I didn't hear all the other arguments, but I'll pop up again if I hear something else. Thanks.
Thank you. Next. And name and address for the record.
The name is Michael Murphy. We live at 3001 Fox Point Road. Just a quick comment on the ramp. Would we prefer a ramp? No, of course we wouldn't, versus no ramp. But I'm more concerned about other parts of the construction. You can't imagine building with cheaper components than what has been proposed, vinyl siding, and the roof line is plain Jane, to say the least. If you drive through the neighborhood, you'll see that the vast majority of the homes are structurally enhanced. They have very interesting roof lines, and the 2 or 3 Rambler type homes are walkout basements. So calling, this a single family home, one level, and comparing it to the ones that are there is a non-starter. They don't compare at all. The roof lines are very much enhanced, and they're all walkouts. So it's not the same at all. I would, the ramp doesn't bother me, but the exterior look of the building bothers me much more than a ramp. And a ramp doesn't necessarily have to be in the front of the home, could be in the side. They're proposing, a patio on the back. Perhaps it could be there. They could have multiple ramps. So, I don't see that as I'd rather see enhancements to the home than argue about the ramp versus no ramp issue.
Okay. Thank you.
I've lived my whole life with vinyl siding. I didn't know I was slumming it.
Councilmember Keeley.
Question for the applicant, the developer or the owner.
Mr. Gullickson.
How many other of the homes don't have basements that you've built and or acquired for the company?
So I want to be clear, I don't own every home that the home health care company operates.
You're the builder in this
In
case,
this
right?
instance, yes, I'm the builder and developer, yes.
Another question, this one's interesting, it's come up in our background and in the planning commission. Is it true that you said that you would not want a house like this coming to your neighborhood?
I did not say that. I did not say that. I was misquoted. What I did say at the first neighborhood meeting that was held September 2nd is that if this was proposed in my neighborhood, I would also be at the meeting. That's what neighborhood meetings are for.
Gotcha, thank you. One last thing, if you would,
Yes.
Going back to the planning commission notes. It says that you were planning on meeting with the neighborhood and addressing questions and concerns. And it states here, and this is our background, that you'll be reaching out to the neighborhood to see what you could do to best fit in if
Yes.
this project is approved. Is that sort of a statement of, here's our design, but if we get a lot of feedback from the neighborhood that they'd like something, we'll try and accommodate it after the approval is given?
Our intention is to have it fit into the neighborhood. And the plan that you have before you doesn't have any color on it, obviously, it's just a black and white plan. We are open to doing enhancements. Also, the plan doesn't have any landscape on it. So, when you get a house plan, they all look very plain, right? Until you do different color shakes in the gables and colors that enhance and play off each other, as well as landscaping. We're proposing not a blacktop, but a concrete driveway, which is an upgrade. So we build these homes so that they feel and have high quality. Somebody that was just up here said that they couldn't imagine lower quality building products. That's not the case. we build these houses, they have to be approved by the Minnesota Department of Health. So we have all these guidelines and requirements that we build to. So they are very, very nice homes when they're completed. And the reason that I have not met with the neighborhood yet and talked to them is because we're in this process. This is the first process. If this is approved, then I will meet, and I've already spoken with Bill. He asked me to reach out. Bill's not here tonight. He asked me to reach out to him, and I told him, you know, we're willing to talk to you and make it work. We want it to fit the neighborhood, both colors, design, and that sort of thing. So.
Follow up to that then.
Yeah.
Would that potentially include some form of curb appeal that might allow it to better
Yes,
fit,
the first thing I think we need to do is get a color rendering and put some color on that house as far as a landscape plan, so that they can really see how that looks, and absolutely open to having discussions about what other things can be done with that structure on the outside so that it does fit. There are nice homes in that neighborhood, and we want ours to look and feel the same. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me follow up before I go to the next council member. Mr. Gullickson, do you have a purchase agreement on this property, or do you own it now?
I already own the property.
You already own the property. So let me ask you, it's a follow-up to Councilmember Keeley's question. Would you be agreeable to work with the neighborhood and bring back a rendering before we make the final decision on this?
I certainly would, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you would delay it so that you can work with the neighborhood and make sure that you have all of that done?
Yeah, if that works, before we went ahead with this, we talked to staff. Said, what's the likelihood of this happening? You know, we don't want to be just battling with the city over, can we build it or can we not build it with the basement? And they said, you know what, this is probably likely. Also, there was some talk that this would be written out of the city code. Yeah, and if that need be the case, otherwise, you know, there are covenants in the neighborhood, so we would have to meet with the neighbors.
Yeah, I think being good neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is important. Okay, Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. I guess I'm just a little confused, because I looked at the portfolio on the website, and the other homes that are operating now. And all of them have a basement. 5039 Brent Avenue in Ember Grove is a 2-story. For young people with disabilities, 13115 50th Street South in Afton is a 2-story. East Spruce Street is a 1-story with a basement, and then Babcock Trail in Ember Grove Heights is a.
I can speak to those. I built 2 of those homes, and the
Beautiful homes.
5641 Babcock has no basement. It's built on slab. I don't know if the county has written it down wrong, but you can, it does not have a basement. I built that. 5039 Brent Avenue, East Ember Grove Heights was the only home that we bought that was already built, and we converted over. And that is a 1-story walkout rambler. It does have a basement. It is not a 2-story. It's a 1 level with a walkout. And 140 Spruce Street East, I built that. That is a single-family 1-level home with no basement. So these are other homes.
Then I don't know what I'm looking at your website, because the one in Ember Grove on Brent Avenue clearly has a basement.
It does. That's the one that we did not build.
Okay.
We bought that home. It was already built, and we converted that. It has a walkout basement. Yep, and we did not build that.
The one in Afton.
I don't own that property in Afton.
The point I'm trying to get to.
That's our website, that's Living Hope Homes website, it's not Mr. Gullickson's website, so it's our company's website. Afton was a home we acquired and remodeled.
Okay.
Again, it has a walkout basement. It's 1 story with a walkout. Both, the 2 homes that we acquired, all others that we've built slab on grade because of the increased accessibility.
And the reason why I bring all of that up is is because these are all being marketed to people with disabilities, and you've clearly been able to find success with two-story homes in these other ones. The one that we're looking at tonight looks very similar to the plan on Babcock. I mean, they look like almost the same house. So again, the reason why I even mention it is because you're proving that it's possible to operate these homes in a two-story facility.
Yeah, there's,
Which just makes me,
yeah, the house at Babcock does not have a basement, it's one level. Yeah.
yeah, the
And-
Dakota County sketch plan is showing a small unfinished portion, but those aren't always.
Yeah, there is no basement in that home. So all the houses that we have built from scratch, none of them have basements. And the other one on Brent Avenue is a walkout, so that, can you imagine having this is a flat lot, the subject property that we're talking about. And the amount of egress windows that would have to be added to get light down there and accessibility and a walkout basement does work because there's a walkout to the outside. And a basement, I mean, it certainly can be built, but it wouldn't be inhabitable for 55 plus unless it was a walkout. It just feels like a trap down there. And when you have a walkout basement, you've got the sunlight, the walkout doors and all of that. So on a flat lot,
How are those individuals getting down to the basement?
the one house that we have does have a chair lift.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one in Afton, the lower level is not being used. There are 6 residents that will be.
Yeah, you'll have to come up because the folks at home can't hear you and they can't see you.
The one in Afton is also a walkout, but the lower level is not being used for residents. It will only be the 6 bedrooms on top that will be used for residents. There's an office down below and things like that, but there will be we will not be bringing residents to the lower level. It's preferable to us is to have one level where when you have caregivers there, they're able to see their residents at all times on the one level.
Thank you, Ms. Osgood.
Thank you, that's all the questions I have for the applicant. I do have a question for our city attorney. If it's possible to facilitate a 2-story home with the use of something like a chairlift, does this then not become more of a financial consideration, given that it's possible to overcome something like a flight stair?
Yeah, Mr. Jamnik.
Mayor and council, no, we don't regulate multiple stories. They're not required to build 2 stories, 3 stories, or walkout. We don't specify the design of the structure. So the short answer is no.
Okay.
We're talking about whether or not they have a basement or not.
But if the variance request for the basement is that this is a home for disabled people who likely aren't able to utilize it, that kind of brings that conversation back to the table, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, there are different levels of disability, first of all. And whether you're able-bodied or have a minor disability, to be able to accommodate stairs and steps is an issue for the occupants of the facility and the operators of the facility. But what we're talking about here really is our standard, our requirement in the code for the basement and the cellar. The second story and some of those treatment issues that have come up are part of the restrictive covenants for the neighborhood that are enforced by them, not by the city. And our review tonight is limited to whether or not we think it's a reasonable accommodation, whether a variance should be issued for waiving or relieving them from the requirement of having a cellar or a basement, which our code provides.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gustafson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is questions for our city attorney. First of all, if the applicant just put in a small storm cellar, would he have to be here for variance right now?
Mayor and council, no.
So that they can solve it right now, and that would end the discussion by putting in a storm cellar, correct?
That is correct. As Mr. Devich indicated in his testimony, we don't specify the size. If they wanted to proceed with a building permit that had some type of basement or cellar. And the standard definition of a cellar is that it doesn't have to be habitable.
Okay.
You know, so it could be a crawl space type of thing. There's a lot of latitude there.
Can we require access to that cellar from the residents themselves?
I don't believe so, no. There'd have to be some accessibility just to meet the building code requirements, but there's no requirement necessarily for non-inhabitable space to be accessible by the disability community. So that you could have an able-bodied area in there that would be consistent with the building code and the federal regulations for accessibility, in my opinion.
Can we regulate with the exterior of a building by how it looks?
We could, but we no longer do. And the ability to require architectural design standards and controls is something that cities struggle with because of the definition of compatibility and the change in materials that the architectural and building community come up with. The comment was made about vinyl siding. The composition materials for siding right now is vastly different than it was 40 years ago.
So as of 2017, we changed that, so we don't have an ordinance in place
That's-
we can't arbitrarily just say, we want this to happen in this particular design. And you're right, we are looking at changing the ordinance. There's certainly a lack of single-floor living in the city of Burnsville. We've lost many of our seniors over the years that they don't have housing because there's not a lot of single-floor living that's going on in the community. And the last question I have, and I guess it's for our council to talk about even, is it reasonable to require basement that's just not needed? You may have ideas that for safety and this and that, but that's your idea, what you'd like. We have many townhomes that don't have basements. Is it reasonable to require a basement of a builder when they're putting in their home, when it's not needed, when it's with their stated purpose?
We have swaths of our 55 and older housing that don't have basements.
And don't get me wrong, I love to see this thing come up and how it looks for the community. I get their part of that. But we're in a situation where we're talking about a basement here, whether it can happen or not happen, and that's it. It has nothing to do how you operate your home. It has nothing to do with what the outside of it looks like or any of those things. That's not within what we're talking about right now. We're on a very narrow thing right here. Is it reasonable to do single slab? We've done it before on 134th for a couple that came in that had disabilities, and we granted that for them because they had the disabilities, and they built a nice home. I mean, so it's not like this hasn't been happening in the city before, and it's not like it's not gonna happen in the future, because as we go through these ordinances, there's a good possibility this is gonna change. And so I just wanna put that out there, and I know I had a meeting with the community a week or so ago, and we talked about these same issues. I've talked with legal, we have your opinion, which if we were to turn this down, we can't defend it in court. And we set ourselves up for a lawsuit, and applicant can either put a little storm cellar in or just wait out the ordinance change, and they're gonna build it anyways, and nobody will have any say on anything, as long as it meets the code.
Well, we have a task force that's in operations right now, and they're going to look over all of this, so it's,
We
we
can't
just.
delay them, why don't we do an
Well-
18-month task force?
Well, I think right now, we can have a discussion. I heard Mr. Gullickson say that he's willing to have a meeting with the neighborhood and talk about what the property would look like, and then come back. My question to you, Mr. Gullickson, will you allow us then to, I think, how much time do we have?
Mayor and council, the deadline, I believe, with the extension is November 19th currently.
Is that true? And so if Mr. Gullickson can have that conversation with the neighborhood, Mr. Gullickson? If you want to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
Because
next step here is to meet with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
then
speak
come
with them.
back. And,
Yeah. I don't believe your decision would change based on what you're talking about, but in order to be a good neighbor, I'm willing to be compatible and work with everybody there.
You know, that is really great to hear, Mr. Gullickson, because you're going to be a part of that community.
Right.
And this is a community that's been a part of Burnsville for 40 years.
Yeah.
And they have been great citizens to this city. Right. And you're going to come in, and they're going to embrace you. But being good neighbors makes for a harmonious community, that they will support you also. You know, and if you need help with some of your residents, I can tell you that the people at Fox Point and Cedar Bridge will be open. But it's about being good neighbors.
Yeah. It's my neighborhood too now.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I do know that you have talked with Mr. D'Agostino, and who's your neighbor.
Yes.
He's right next door. He's out of town now, and I think it'll be best if you all meet and look at that and then come back.
Yes.
Yeah. Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I just want to make a comment to the overall. I think, and I'm coming from someone who's with 6 siblings, had to put my father in an institutional care home. And I, at that point in time, many years ago, didn't really know that these senior care group homes existed, and would have much preferred that my father live his final years in a home environment with 5 other people and a caregiver, as opposed to where he was. We witnessed many times, too many times, where the care was allocated, let's put it that way. And this was one of the best rated elderly care homes in that city. And I didn't think so after visiting many times and witnessing what I witnessed. And so I think these are, they're growing. We're getting more of these because my generation's getting older, and his. And even older, yeah.
Even older.
And so I think these are a wonderful option that there's demand for, significant demand for, as evidenced by your company and others that we've spoke to. So I think, in my meeting with the neighborhood, they were very welcoming of the use. They certainly had no problem with that. They were welcoming of having an empty lot filled with a building and completing the neighborhood. And they had obviously a big concern based on, as you pointed out, it's a line drawing. It's pretty plain, there isn't much there, and how it fits in the neighborhood, I think, is really the critical piece. And so I appreciate you willing to meet with the neighborhood and then circle back and come up with something that the neighborhood can support you on, because you are going to be neighbors for a very long time. And I thought it was very genuine and reflective of this neighborhood when the gentleman who first spoke said, if there is a tornado and WCCO says get into your basements, that all your residents are welcome at his house. That's the kind of Minnesota nice that this neighborhood and the city of Burnsville wants. But to preserve that, we need to be partners in doing things like this. So I think, we're going on your word that you're going to be a partner and actually work with the neighborhood. They do have covenants. There are some architectural requirements in those covenants, and so it's not we can't get involved in that as a city. That's purely a neighborhood thing. But I think what you've heard tonight is, in the spirit of building a great-looking home and housing some wonderful senior citizens in a very, very enviable neighborhood, by the way, I think your task is to work with them and be open-minded to some design changes to enhance it on the front to be able to make it a better fit to the neighborhood. And then everybody wins. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Gullickson and Ms. Garros, I think we need a date certain so that you can come back and we can close this part of the process. But I think the next thing is meeting with the neighborhood and coming up and then having the plans, and you all agree. Because one of the things that we say here in Burnsville is that you all belong here. And I can tell you that the people who have lived at Fox Point and Cedar Bridge belong in Burnsville. They've been here for over 40 years and have been great neighbors and great civic citizens. And you've heard them say, if you have problems, we'll, come help. Mr. Peschel says, you need a place where your residents go, they can come. And so this is the kind of neighborhood you're moving into. So work with them, and I need a date certain for us to come back. I think, Ms. Garros,
what the dates are
Mr. Jamnik?
November, council dates?
October 5th is the next meeting that feels too soon for me to have conversations. October 19th, there's a note on our future meetings agendas that says ask the city manager before adding items. So I'm going to
think the council gets to trump that.
Or November 1st.
Mr. Gullickson, 19th or the 1st?
Is that the first? It is the first. The election.
Oh, is it
November 1st is a Monday.
the 1st?
Yep.
Is that okay, Mr. Gullickson?
I'm just wondering if we should go out to the next one, which would be middle of November, just to be sure that we have enough time to work with the neighborhood there and the
And get
covenants
your-
and get some renderings in the landscape plan.
Okay, we're good with that, if
because we're
it's
not
good
gonna
with
be-
you. Yeah, and I see Miss Osgood nodding her head. So, that's really nice, that's about being welcoming and being part of the community. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So you're saying November 16th?
We'd be looking at November 16th, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
We had canceled that, but we will add this item to the agenda. So-
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Gullickson, and members of Fox Point and Cedar Bridge. You all need to come together, work everything out, and I need a motion to continue this item to the 16th of November.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Gustafson makes a motion, second by Councilmember Schultz. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you for caring enough to all come out. And together, this is how good government works, is we work together so that we can live in harmony and help one another. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is 4C, and this is to adopt the max tax. And presenting her last report to us is our finance director, Ms. Jenny Rhodey. Ms. Rhodey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. We're here tonight. We're here tonight to approve the proposed max tax levy. The city is required by state statutes to approve a proposed levy by September 30th. That proposed levy will be included in the county's proposed tax statements that'll be sent out in November. Just for a quick review, our budget calendar, we've had 3 meetings so far where we've discussed the budget in detail. Our most recent meeting being September 7th. Tonight, we have 3 resolutions before you where we, to adopt the max tax levy for the city and EDA. October 26th, department presentations at the council work session are on the schedule. November 9th will be the council work session on the 2022 budget and CIP with adoption of the final tax levies and budgets scheduled for December 7th. At the September 7th work session, the budget was discussed and council consensus was to bring back resolutions approving a 4.8% levy increase over the prior year. This slide shows the total city levy plus the total Economic Development Authority levy. Typically, we've shown these 2 together, so for consistency, this is a similar presentation to past years. With a final levy, with both of those levies totaling $41,209,755, an increase of about $1.9 million or 4.8% over the 2021 levy. Just a quick review. We often look at the median value home and what the increase or what the impact of the levy increase, how that will impact the median value home. The 2022 market value for the median value home went up 5.6%. And as we look at, what kind of impact that would have, we have a $5.89 monthly increase in total. Really a 10-cent decrease due to the levy change. The tax rate with a 4.8% levy increase remains about the same or just slightly under the tax rate from last year. So much of the impact driving the increase are those market value increases for the median value home. And this is just a summary of the resolutions we have tonight. First, we have the city resolution certifying the 2022 proposed tax levy. for the city. Following that, the EDA levy, or the EDA meeting will convene, and the EDA, the council will approve the EDA tax levy of $297,500. Once the city council meeting resumes, the city council will certify that EDA levy. If you go up to the top. So with that, that's kind of just that's my presentation for tonight. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Okay.
No questions for me.
If there are any questions for Ms. Rhodey. The thing is, we have, as she has outlined, quite a few meetings on this subject. If there are no questions for Ms. Rhodey, may I have a motion? Councilmember Workman.
I would move to adopt the resolution as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Does the clerk have the division of the House?
I do, Madam Mayor.
I voted for it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't mean I'll vote for the final one. But we need a max tax.
Well, thank you. It's just like sort of a surprise from your last vote.
We
your
move on to the
consensus.
EDA meeting now?
Okay. I will now recess the Burnsville City Council meeting so the EDA meeting can convene, and President Gustafson.
I will now call the Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Please note for the record that all commissioners are present. Item number 1, are there any additions to the final agenda? No. Seeing none, I will move on. Number 2, the consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt a consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Keeley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Workman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. We will now move on to the regular agenda, and that's resolution authorizing the proposed levy of a special benefit levy pursuant to Minnesota statute section 469.033, subdivision 6, and approval of a proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. And now Jenny Rhodey will give us her final presentation.
It's very short. I don't have much to add other than, we've got a proposed budget and a $297,500 proposed levy.
Are there any questions?
No, move to approve.
Commissioner Couts moves to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Keeley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay. Thank you,
And
sir.
it covers.
You don't want to increase it?
I don't. Seeing nothing else on our agenda, I need an adjournment to move,
Move to
to
adjourn.
close.
Move to close.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are closed. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will now reconvene the Burnsville City Council meeting, and the next item is to adopt the EDA motion.
Move to
And
adopt as presented.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in
Like to
favor,
hear from
please.
Jenny once more, please.
Third and final.
Yeah. Third and final. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And the motion carries. And Ms. Rhodey, thank you so much for your service to the city of Burnsville and for all that you have done. We appreciate all the work that you have put into this, and thank you so much. We're going to miss you.
You will be missed.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
You were
you.
very creative in so many presentations, so
Yeah.
we really appreciate that.
Plymouth is getting a gem.
Yeah.
We're losing one.
So, before I do, I will,
Plymouth.
members of the council, before I go to the emergency items, I'm going to ask City Manager Lee to make some remarks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Just real briefly, I wanted to thank Jenny Rhodey for her service to the community. She took the position of 6 weeks before the COVID pandemic, and she has done an amazing job with helping navigate throughout the last 18 months, and so she will be missed. I would allow Deputy City Manager Greg Lindberg to provide any comments. He provides her direct supervision.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to take a minute to recognize Jenny. This is it's hard to find words. This is a tough night for me. Your sentiment is exactly mine, and that Jenny will very much be missed. 16 years of service to the community that she lives in, and over the course of the past 18 months, some incredible wisdom, expertise, and her strengths in navigating what have been a couple of very challenging budget years. And without her leadership, without her strengths, I think we would be in a different place. And as she leaves the organization, very much recognize the talent that she's brought to the table to think differently, to think strategically, to be careful in her decision making and the recommendations that come in front of this group, and be creative about it. So beyond that, Jenny's become a good friend, and I'll miss you.
Thanks. I don't have a lot to say, but I'm very humbled by just the sentiments, and I've appreciated and I'm grateful for the experience and the relationships that I've built here. So I'll just say thank you.
Well, at least you still live in Burnsville, and we'll still see you.
You might see me around.
But, yeah, but you are going to be missed. So thank you so much for helping us through the pandemic, as it has been reported. And and you've added a lot of great value, new ways of looking at our budget. And so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
The next item is the resolution extending the mayor's declared local emergency and update on the storm cleanup. And presenting an update, but before we do the update, I think City Manager Lee, do you have much to add to the extension of the local emergency declaration?
Madam Mayor and Council, not specifically, we would just ask the Council formally adopt the resolution as presented in your packet.
Okay, so before you adopt the resolution, but one of the things that I do want to say is that to our Public Works Director and to our City Manager, thank you, because when the tornado, which at first we all thought was straight winds, and how devastating that was to our community. The nice thing, members of the council, is that we had a policy in place of how to address these natural disaster events. And our staff, thank you for doing yeoman's work and showing care and compassion to our citizens when they called and wanted to understand what are we going to do. So thank you so much. So you have an update so that our community will know what's going on. I have had pictures of from citizens when their yards were cleaned up, and they sent it to say thank you, and you were already out there picking up all the tree trunks and debris. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. I have similar remarks. I got a brief PowerPoint, but maybe I'll take that same opportunity y'all had to thank Jenny. Jenny was very much in Public Works, we tend to spend some money. We like to think we spend it the best way that we possibly can and the most effective with it. But Jenny, she was always extremely find a way to get it done. So we have this much, how can we make it happen? So she always really was a partner on all the things that we do. So on behalf of Public Works, thank you also for everything you've done. And with that, I'll move on to my next statement here, but I have some similar comments to similar with thanking all the people who have worked very hard on this. There's countless pictures like this that we could do. This is one I just found right off the bat. As was stated, 3 a.m. September 17th, it was determined at least one tornado in the North River or South River Hills area, as was described by the residents here today. We do believe there was one also in southwest off of Judicial Road and Oakwood Drive. If you go down there, it has similar characteristics where they're not just all blown over one direction. They're in different ways, but I'll be thanking our crews throughout this presentation, but that same exact day, all streets were open. I'm not saying they were everything's moved aside, but everything was open by the end of that day. Thanks to our partners at Dakota Electric and Excel Energy, the power was back on by That's Saturday, so we didn't quite get it the same day, and then signal systems restored. So police helped us out quite a bit with traffic control. This is an interesting picture.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a tree or
I
if that
know.
is a limb.
That was said to me also.
Yeah, but it's literally being held up by the power line, and then it looks like it was planted in the middle of the road there. So this is just kind of shows some of the power that was available with the storm, and obviously that's
Was this down Selkirk?
Yeah, it's in that
Yeah,
general
this
area.
is, yeah.
Yeah, and this, of course, is a very dangerous situation
Mhm.
with power, and someone may not think it's available. So, you know, to begin with, we have to delay until we know those lines are de-energized. In fact, we don't touch a branch like that. The power company has to come out and do it. But just kind of gives you an idea of the destructive nature that we were dealing with. Just another picture of some, you know, this is generally residents cut it up like this so that we could take it. One more, and so this area, it almost looks like it's holding up the bird feeder, but this is the root ball that is just totally pushed over. And like I said, this is 3 of them, but there's countless like this throughout. Talked with Dave Garmish, you know, our forester. He's been here 40 years. It's not quite 98, where it was basically
Throughout the whole city.
had seen this. This is more pretty good sized pockets. And then he remembered, I think 1982, of more of a tornadic thing that was pretty similar to this one, but 98 was the year he became the forester, so he started on when we had the craziest trailing winds, and many of you know he is going to retire at the end of this year, early next year, so he's ending his service with a tornado, so he's dealing with some crazy tree issues on both ends of it, so many thanks to Dave. What have we done to date? Mitigation actions. The mayor declared the emergency on Saturday. I do thank police and our emergency coordinator, Patrick Gass, along with Melanie and Michelle.
It was Friday that I declared, Friday afternoon.
Thank you for declaring it as early as possible. But,
We had to move.
Yes, I agree.
I think you were working before then, though.
Okay, I think maybe so. But I appreciate the assistance on that and making sure we got that done when we needed to. Since then, we've opened up the city's compost site, so out to the community, that is wide open for anybody 24/7, no cost, behind Dodge of Burnsville. Debris can be brought there anytime. Streets and forestry are our primary headliners on the street cleanup. And then, you know, park department doesn't necessarily get as much kudos, but they got 77 parks to clean up. So very much doing that, in our utilities got their sites as well. A couple more pictures of what it looks like. This is a city truck with the city front end loader. So our street superintendent today wanted to express his appreciation for, we do have some of the best equipment around in the southern metro. We were able to react as fast as we had because we are well equipped. So we appreciate it, and we're using that equipment to the best of its ability. And then we have also hired private contractors. This is a private contractor who has an actual truck that he can put the debris in. So it's a combination effort. What residents should know, once again, I can't stress enough that city compost site is free and it's open at this, I can't imagine it being closed until at least a month out. Bring your stuff down there, just don't put it in bags, just bring it loose, and that's much easier, otherwise we have to go in and take the bags out. So we are cleaning up streets and boulevards. If what we're asking is, if you're hiring a contractor to come in and do your work, have that contractor take the tree with them. It makes everything go faster if they're not just hauling it out to the front. So, you know, if you're going to the extent of hiring a contractor, we're asking residents to please take those with them. We're not gonna not pick stuff up, but it just makes it quicker and faster for everybody if that's the way. I have a map showing where those most affected areas are, but that's gonna be our focus. We think we're gonna be able to have that well cleaned up by the end of the week. We are coming afterwards and sweeping up the streets as well to give it that finished look. And then following that, then we'll move into our more smaller impact areas. And we got hundreds of calls, thanks to public experience and our admin, our maintenance. We will then be starting to move through those. Not everyone's gotten a call back. It's just too many of them at this point. We're focusing on our big areas, but we will be checking up on those. So those focus areas, that tree that we talked about in the picture was in this area. We call it South River Hills, just right by William Byrne School. That school is not going to be the same from an aesthetic standpoint for quite a while. They lost many trees, good sized ones, which it's sad to see. But the school is going to thrive, I'm sure, but it just won't have the same looks.
Well, that whole neighborhood was hit very hard.
Yes.
Yeah, the school
Exactly.
side and across the street.
Yeah.
Because when I drove through it, and then down to Selkirk and Reveau.
Yes.
Ooh.
It was something else. And then Echo Park area, in that area was similar, maybe not quite as many of the really large trees, but there's branches
Yeah.
down all over. Those have
Yeah.
generally been removed.
And then 140th had trees on the houses, because that's another neighborhood I was down there.
That is, yep, the 140th Frontier Lane.
Yeah,
That
that
whole area. Irving and Thomas area, Friendship Lane, that was a definite
Yeah.
mess as well. And then Oakwood Drive, right off of Judicial, goes out to that Kelleher wetland. That was both sides just
Yeah.
really pushed in. 150 in Orchard had similar characteristics, and then Carriage and South Point, I think that may have been the last road that we got opened up on that Friday. So these are the focus areas we're working on now, cleaning up. And then, like I said, we should be able to have these areas gone through all at once, hopefully swept by the end of this week. And then next week, we'd start focusing on those more one-off, smaller piles, or maybe smaller branches that could still be large piles. But that's our plan, and we think we can be successful getting there. Just another picture of a similar nature where you can just see the situation. They've already got it all cleaned up, and we just got that stuff, I think, hauled away today. One of the major reasons to do the declaration is for potential reimbursement. Dakota County has been in touch with our police emergency manager saying, do these things, track your time, track your, make sure to create codes, and track our equipment usage, as well as photographing damage. As you can see that can see the photographing, and I promise you we are doing these other things. I'm thinking finance here later on, but thank you to them. They work quickly to get us the codes that we need so that when we do this next round of timesheets, we can track that effectively and not have to go back in time and recreate all this type of thing. So.
And Mr. Peterson, as we're tracking all of this, we can also then apply for FEMA disaster grants.
Yes, if
Yeah.
it's determined that this is
Yeah.
FEMA eligible, that's the whole goal behind this.
We have a lot of people saying it's a tornado.
That's good reason to believe that we may be able to get it.
Yep.
So we're reacting either way, but we want to be able to collect if if it's
Yeah.
determined that that is the available to
And we
us.
have great photographs.
We do. So the next slide are mostly just thank yous. I want to thank Public Works employees. There was other things happening while the storm was going on. We had a fiber outage Thursday afternoon. Assistant Public Works Director and myself were in our office and messing with the computers, and then all of a sudden we had nothing. There was a fiber cut that happened up by Buck Hill. So our utility department had to manually go out to all their sites and make sure that we weren't losing water pressure and all those kinds of things. Sorry about that. But so that was going on Thursday, and then that very night is when the storm happened. The mayor was there, but we still kept on with our harvest party, celebrating Grow Burnsville Saturday, and then, of course, a water main break occurred Monday, and now we're hosting our biggest on-site facility thing on Saturday for Household Hazardous Waste Day. So we have to clean and push everything back so that we can have all that in there. So I'm not looking for, this isn't a pity, this is nothing. I'm just explaining what's going on, and I just want to thank all of our employees who make this happen.
Yeah.
They've worked so hard to this point on this kind of crazy stretch we've had, and they're going to continue to do so. And it's just been something else the last few days and week, as it turns out. And then Streets and Forestry are leading that response, just doing a fabulous job. They work together. Street Department is doing the large piles, and Forestry is doing more of the tactical work that they're trained to do. So they're splitting that up with what makes sense. I think Greg talked about strengths. Let's hit our strengths to use what they're both best at. Parks is cleaning up the park department. Our fleet department is supporting all those efforts, all the equipment. Utilities is managing our sites there. I don't know how many calls our administrative staff has taken, and we created a spreadsheet that can be opened up by both, so we're tracking it. So thanks to all of them, and they've been so good with residents on the phone who've been calling in. Finance department worked quickly to get us what we needed so we can do that tracking. Police was out helping with emergency management as well as traffic control. I also want to thank the city manager and for helping with this administrative side of the things and getting these resolutions together. I didn't have to do a thing with it, so thank you very much, along with Michelle. And to the city council, you empower us to make these decisions quickly. We get the call, there's a tornado and straight winds. We aren't thinking, or is the city council gonna get mad at us for going out and doing these things quickly? No, you're empowering, not only to empower us to make those decisions so that we can, within a week, get there and make it safer. So thanks you for trusting us to do that. And then the Burnsville citizens have been really good in this. It hasn't, our people taking the calls haven't been getting yelled at a lot. They've been creating those piles that we can manage, so I want to thank them as well and for their patience as we've worked through it. So that's my update. It might have been a little longer than I explained to you this morning, but I just wanted to put all that out there. And thank you so much to all the public works staff who've just really come together. We really shine. I mean, I have a lot of great professionals, but when chips are down, they just shine. We have people who can put plans together. The same person who does the street snow and ice control has done a lot of the planning here, and as well as our forester as well to put these plans together.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Public Works Director Peterson, and to you, City Manager Lee, and the whole team, everybody, because these things happen and you're out there taking care of it. And to members of the council, it's great when we have good policies in place, and that we did put away $2 million to allow our staff to act quickly because the resources were available to them. And all I needed to do was to declare an emergency, and then they were able to execute because the resources were available. So to members of the council, thank you. I'm so glad we put in place policies and reserves so that Public Works Director Peterson and his staff can take care of our city and our residents and our business. So thank you so much, City Manager Lee. You and Mr. Lindberg, I mean, you guys were so great in tag teaming. I think you were on your way back from a conference and getting all of that. So thank you. I was hoping that you know, you were being careful as you were working your way home very quickly. Thank you so much. Members of the council, yes.
Can you just ask a quick?
Yes, yes, Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. And I thank our forestry staff. I know those guys are probably working overtime.
Yeah, they are.
I live by Steve Watson, and I'm sure he's working like crazy. I just have a quick point of clarification, Ryan. I'm in a partially affected area in North River Hills, and had neighbors ask, is the city gonna come pick up our trees? And I guess I'm not totally clear. Is that something that is gonna happen next week? Do they need to bring it down themselves, or do we have any idea? Does that feed into what you were talking about?
Our intention is anything that is a boulevard tree or landed in the street, we will definitely clean up.
Okay.
And so if they're piled up right by the curb, we aren't going onto yards, we have to be able to get there from the street. Our request is, so we're not gonna actively try to figure out what was private and what was public. If it was in the backyard and you had to hire a contractor to come in, we're hoping that they will take the tree with them as opposed to setting it there so that we have to take care of it. I guess that's the biggest differentiation, is we're not actively trying to figure out what is what, but it'll make it easier on us if the people are hiring contractors to come in to do their work, if they could take it with them.
If somebody cleaned it up themselves and then stacked it, is that gonna be eligible for a pickup?
We will pick it up.
Okay.
Yep. So
That's kind of the biggest question I'm getting right now.
Yep, so that would be, that you said it appropriately, and I know they're still affected, but not as much as a couple of those other areas. We would be by in the following weeks, and that's when we'd be following up on that.
Okay. Yeah, just to your point earlier about William Byrne, I dropped off there that morning and it looked like a war zone.
Yeah.
And within a few days, it was completely cleared. I mean, there's still some residual, but it looked pretty incredible what everybody was able to do so quickly.
Yeah.
Thanks to our contracting friends, and we were able to get some of them working for us.
Yeah, by Friday afternoon, it was pretty much cleared up. William Byrne.
That road just south of there, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
south,
that
River
cul-de-sac,
Hills.
I don't know what the name of it is, but.
Okay. Councilmember Keeley?
Just wanted to add one thing to that list of disasters happening. We had an city irrigation break in front of our HOA, and trucks were out there. I think it was just notified yesterday, and trucks are out there today fixing it. So in light of all the really big things, there was a little underground irrigation break in the city's lines, and they got out there. There was three guys digging very quickly to get down to it and fix it. And by the time, I think I passed by, and 15 minutes later, I went the other direction. They were filling the hole up, so they found the leak very quickly. And then your point earlier about you spend a lot of money, have you thanked the department, Ms. Faulkner and Ms. Dean, Economic Development, who bring the money in so then you can spend it? I just want to know if you've thrown kudos to them too.
I always thank them for helping us out on all levels of an organization. And also for helping make sure that we meet the city codes when we do what we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm joking, of course, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? If not, members of the council, I need a motion to adopt the resolution extending the mayor's declared local emergency.
Motion to adopt.
Councilmember Schultz makes some motions.
Good.
Councilmember Schultz and Councilmember Keeley seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. City Manager Lee, is there anything else to come before the council?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, members of the council, there are no other items to come before the body this evening.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a
Sorry.
motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.
Adjourn.